Survivor, one of the most popular shows on television that has been airing now for almost 2 decades. A long-lasting staple in pop culture that has a massively large fan base, which is what keeps it from disappearing. But why? What is the appeal of Survivor? It's a reality game show where lying, cheating, and deception are encouraged, and the person exclusively judged on being the best at those things wins a whopping prize of $1 million. So there is a question to be asked here. Why is there such a large obsession? How does a show that promotes manipulation and deceit remain so popular? Well, that's what we're going to try to find the answer to. My name is Aaron Bulk, and this is Podcast Aaron. So in this podcast, I speak with my friend Billy, who, like myself, is a lifelong Survivor fan. So, just to be clear, this podcast is Survivor heavy. If you do not watch Survivor, or don't know much about Survivor, you can keep listening, but you will probably not get the references. If you are a Super Survivor fan, just note that this was recorded before Ghost Island, so no references from Ghost Island will be made. Alright, that's it. Please enjoy Podcast Aaron. Hey Billy, how you doing?
Hey Aaron, how you doing, man?
I'm doing well. Are you ready to talk some Survivor?
That's my favorite thing to do, so
Same.
let's do it.
Let's do it. So, Billy and I met at Hofstra University, and I noticed that he was wearing a Big Brother Canada sweater. And I called him out on that because I'm not a Big Brother Canada fan, but Lord knows I'm a Big Brother fan. So, I think that's where our friendship kind of started. Yeah,
exactly. And I was like, wow, he actually knows what Big Brother Canada is? And he's lives in the United States? That's amazing. So this kid definitely knows what Big Brother is. And then we had a really passionate talk about Survivor.
Yeah.
And that's why we're here today.
Yeah. I got a question for you. And this will loop back to the main topic. Mm-hmm. How many people in your life, that you meet in school and work or whatever, that you come across, no Survivor?
I would say a good maybe 5 people.
5 people?
There are not a lot of people that I know that really like Survivor or Big Brother or, as passionate as you are or as I am about it. My mom is a casual viewer who I watch it with. I have a couple friends who have watched the earlier seasons of Survivor. The seasons where, people like Boss and Rob.
And they always say, oh, wait, that's still on?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. They're like, that's still on? And it's like, yeah. It's still on.
It's in season 35, man. Yeah.
It's in season 35. It's probably going to make it to season 50. So.
God willing.
Mm-hmm.
So, I actually struggled through high school with Survivor because nobody in my high school watched Survivor. And Survivor was something very passionate to me. So, and we'll explain why and I'll get into that. But when I first went to my first college, New York Film Academy, there was this girl from Brazil who loved Survivor, but not as much as I did. Mm-hmm. And it's the greatest thing for me because it's so rare where I bump into people that know Survivor. Exactly. It is. And I don't know why it is because it's been on for so long. There has to
so many viewers.
Yeah, it has a large fan base. So when we met, I was so excited. It was the first week of Hofstra, second week of Hofstra, and I was like, yes, I found somebody who loves Survivor. This is awesome.
And you were probably one of my first friends at Hofstra because I was transferring there.
Same. So, yeah, that's how it happened. And we are both fanatics of Survivor, never miss an episode, never miss a season.
Nope.
Fans of the podcast, including Rob has a podcast.
Yep, never miss an episode of that.
Never miss an episode of that, always on top of that. And I don't know about you, probably, but are you, freakishly good at remembering the names of the cast?
Very good.
So would you say that for some strange reason you know more about Survivor than other topics you probably should?
Oh yeah, definitely. Probably all the topics that I was learning at Hofstra this year.
Right. So. Yeah. So I have a question. When did you start watching Survivor?
I started watching Survivor when I think I was probably in first grade.
Mm-hmm.
And the first season I could remember was Survivor All Stars.
Okay.
The first Survivor All Stars with Rob and when Amber won.
Right.
And I just remember for some weird reason that watching the finale to that and when Rupert won the other $1 million, which was amazing that they gave away $2 million on 8th season of Survivor. It wasn't like it was in its 20th season for it's a fan vote, and I just always remember that. But then I remember keep watching that, and I remember certain players that are like Terry Dietz and Aris and Tom and of course Colby Donaldson.
This is old school Survivor.
So I remember that, and it was a big bonding experience with my mom and my dad, who was still alive at the time, and we never missed an episode. We watched it, and then when we moved away, my mom kind of stopped watching, but I always was watching, and I brought her back in to Survivor. And then I remember in high school, what the big person in high school, I remember my mom coming in one day and was like, "We gotta watch Survivor this season." I was like, "Okay, why?" And she's like, there's this guy on Survivor, and he's like the most despicable person that like they've ever had. She was talking about Russell.
Russell Hantz.
Yeah. She was talking about Russell Hantz. And I was like, all right, at first episode, this guy that looks like a troll coming out of the bushes, I'm like, that's him, right? And she's like, yep, that's him. And he just didn't disappoint.
Right.
And ever since then, I've been hooked.
Yeah. Oh, so since 19.
Mm-hmm.
Since then, you were a casual viewer.
I was a casual viewer, and since Russell's not even in my top 5 favorite players, but just like seeing that person, and like his character, that made me.
People say that Russell, one of the most despicable players, saved the show.
I heard that too.
And the show would have, started fading away, but he kind of changed it to more of a strategic game more than a survival game. And what I find interesting is it's still going. It's almost 20 years, and it's still going. And I think that you said something interesting, that you watched it with your mom, and you watched it with your mom and dad when you were younger.
Mm-hmm.
Survivor, a very sophisticated, harsh game. Their fan base is largely families.
Exactly.
Young kids. Yeah, that's the weird thing. That's the thing that keeps it going. And I think it's fair to say that after 20 years, it kind of built a culture of its own. Like, Star Wars has been so long. So people are now... There's a Star Wars culture. Star Trek has a culture because it's long running. This has been going on for 20 years. And I feel like in its own world, there is a Survivor culture with the fans.
Yeah, I totally agree with that. Question for you: do you think that Russell kind of changed the thing from old school to new school? Do you think maybe his season, because you were saying he's very strategic, and he started off with the alliances on the beach day one, and we see in the earlier seasons it's just all about making a shelter, getting fire.
It's more about survival,
and then we can worry about alliances later. But now we see New School Survivor. As soon as you hit the beach, it's who you got to make a connection with.
You got to get those numbers.
You got to make a connection.
Yeah.
It's not about building the shelter. Although they're building the shelter, people walk off and are like, I trust you, I want to be in alliance with you. That's the more important part. So I've been trying to pinpoint down the season that kind of like
changed all that.
That changed it, and I think thinking about it, maybe Russell kind of changed it.
I think so, because the previous season was Tocantins. I don't want to talk about so much in detail Survivor episodes and seasons, just the whole thing as a whole, but I do think, I don't remember it in the season prior, or any seasons prior, so much maybe All-Stars when they were all on the beach. It was the first time returning players, and like, I don't trust any of you.
Exactly.
But this is, I think Russell Hantz changed the game. And I think the game has evolved. And the game.
It's crazy he wasn't on Game Changers, but
I
that's
mean,
another
I don't think we're
story.
going to see Russell back anytime soon.
No,
I think
we
he's
won't.
kind of tired of it. Not tired of it. I think he's kind of like, had his
Mhm.
day in the light of Survivor. He has a podcast now, but
He does?
Yeah.
You gotta listen to that.
yeah,
I
So
can understand them.
yeah. But the thing is, Survivor's always changing, but it's always the same format. Do you think the format being similar, which I'm going to explain to the format for the people who do not know, you put 20 people on a beach, 2 teams, they have to create a society together, and in that society, they have to try to get along, knowing that every 3 days, they're going to have to vote somebody out of their tribe, of the group that they have created. And in between those, they play for challenges for safety, certain challenges for rewards like food and stuff. And while this is all going on, they are actually living in the jungle in some country, Fiji right now. They used Philippines, Africa, whatever. They take these Americans and put them in some country, and they have to survive on the resources. So it's both a survival game, but it's also a game of strategic, mental manipulation. And I don't think American TV has seen anything like that prior. I do think Survivor changed the face of reality television, and we see these reality televisions come and go, but Survivor remains there. That might be the OG. Like, it's there. It's still here after almost 20 years. And I think it has a lot to do with the format. And the format being manipulation, deception is a good thing. You got to be the best at it. You don't want to be the one voted out, so you got to vote somebody else out. Do you think why do you think that format is such a popular format, especially among a show that's watched by a lot of families?
Well, I think there's 2 reasons why Survivor just keeps evolving and is keeping their fan base and is still one of the most popular reality shows, if not the most popular reality show.
Maybe.
So the first reason is that it hits a lot of different focal points and a lot of different aspects. There are people on the show that watch the show for the challenges, or they watch the show for the manipulation, the lying and deceit. There are also people that watch the show for the survival aspect of it. And that is seen more on the old school Survivor, when someone like a Colby Donaldson, who was a numbnut when it came to strategical things, is one of the most popular survivors to ever play the game, is because he was so great at surviving. He was a great face to look at, and fans fell in love with him. But
just
that
to
was
add on
season 2.
to that, sorry, don't mean to interrupt. Survivor, to give you an idea of how big of a cultural phenomenon Survivor is, after Kobe Donaldson was in season 2, and his appearance on the show, he's a normal person. He's not a character. A normal person went on this show, and from that, he became a household name. That year.
Yeah.
And Kobe was the #1 baby name of the following year because of his appearance on Survivor.
This is
Just
amazing.
crazy. Yeah.
And I think he said in a Rob interview, he's like, I met a person with a dog named
Right.
Colby.
Yeah.
But I could totally believe that, because I mean, who wouldn't? If you're watching a show and, like you said, it's predominantly a family, who wouldn't fall in love with a guy like Colby?
Right.
A character like Colby. So, a do-it-all American from Texas that it just bleeds red, white, and blue. That's someone you want to root for. And I think that's, hate jumping season, but going all the way back to this most recent season, someone like Ben, who was a Marine, who had PTSD, who had that story. I think people love to root for people like that.
Yeah.
So I think the characters and they hit a lot of focal points, and I think the show hits a lot of focal points, and that's why I think some people watch it just for the challenges, some people just watch it just for the storylines, people watch it for just maybe the manipulation, the lying, and the seeing who will really do anything for $1 million, basically.
Yeah.
But I think a lot of people watch it all for the same. And I think the second reason is the show evolves itself. originally it was all about just surviving on a beach.
Yeah.
And I recently just watched the first season, Borneo, back,
Nice.
and it was like what is it? It was like basically
It was
like
figuring itself out.
it was like a different show, but I still very very much enjoyed it. I think there were a couple things that Survivor implemented that changed the show forever, and I think the first thing is the hidden immunity idol.
Yeah, we don't have to go into specifics of the game, just But yeah, they have changed things around, and that does have you've got to do that in a show that goes this long, or you'll get bored. You got to because there used to be always 2 teams, but they wouldn't swap. But now they swap, so you've got to change the format constantly.
3 teams.
Yeah.
Sometimes they go in 2 teams, and then like midway through, they go into 3 teams.
Right.
Like in Millennial.
Yeah. I think you said something interesting before that I want to talk about. With Ben, people liked seeing that. People liked seeing people stories. And I think something that one of the reasons why Survivor is such a cultural phenomenon and it's been airing for so long is because regardless of what the conspiracy theorists say about this show being scripted, which it's not.
It's definitely not.
It's not. It just has great editors who put music in the background, make it more dramatic. These are people. We are watching real people react.
Exactly. These are not celebrities. These are not paid actors. These are real people with real life stories that you can relate to. You can't maybe relate to maybe the average person can't relate to Ben, but maybe there is a Marine that's watching Survivor that is struggling with his PTSD from coming back from war and seeing this guy overcome all of this and win $1 million for his family. Like maybe that will inspire him to go out and change his life.
Mm-hmm.
Like I just remember one scene where, sorry to get into the specifics, but when the fire popped and Ben, it sounded like a gunshot, and like seeing that, I've never been to war, but I felt for him, and like that scene was so emotional and so. You
feel
for someone like
feel
that.
There are people moments on this show. There are moments throughout this series where we see people at their realest, and they've signed up for this. They're exposing their lives to the world. And if there's an interesting or maybe controversial or something uncomfortable about their lives that they are willing to share or can't control and it's being shared or whatever, it's a topic people are seeing. And people are either learning about it or can relate to it or have heard about it but don't know much about it. We don't need to talk about all of them. We could bullet point some of them, but we have Zeke, who was called out for being transgender.
Exactly.
That is something that a lot of people can relate to, and some people that they know about, and now it's just they don't know a lot about it. But it's something they heard of. It's a topic that's not discussed in their normal lives, so they are exposed to it.
It was brought out on a TV show that you would never expect it to be brought out on. You wouldn't really think that Survivor would be the opportunity for someone for such a beautiful moment like that to happen when it wasn't supposed to be. It was a malicious attack, really. Yeah. And then it turned into a beautiful moment.
They have these moments that are just, you see the realness, the rawness of a human being. And what's the word? They're just exposing themselves to the America.
Very
and we
vulnerable.
like watching this because we have insecurities, we have these fears, we have these issues.
Vulnerable.
Right. I think one thing that was very fascinating was there was a firefighter who on Millennials vs. Gen X season 33 who came out. He already came out in his normal life, but he did not come out in the game and revealed it to that player Zeke. And I think that was a people moment. I didn't expect that happening, by the way.
Yeah, someone who you really wouldn't, really first glance think is someone who would maybe even want to expose that he's gay, but he felt comfortable with Zeke, and that is a people moment. That is a great moment.
And it makes you think, because the show. I'm not saying the show edited him a certain way to make us think that he was this macho, manly man. He played the game, I think, fairly well, where he was just he came on strong.
He came in 5th place. He played really well.
He did play really well. But prior to him revealing his truths to Zeke and revealing it to us, I would never have thought of that.
Neither would
I don't think there's a lot of things that would probably make me think of somebody and say, I think that person might be gay. Or maybe, whatever. And it makes you think. It makes you think. And I thought that's the power Survivor has. And so yes, at one point, one part of the show is manipulation. It's a game of deceit. It's a game of creating a world of morals and then breaking them down. Of making friendships, but stabbing your friend in the back before they stab you.
Mm-hmm.
It's a malicious game. It's a scary game, actually. I could imagine being on there and being very paranoid constantly. It messes with people, and we enjoy watching that.
And you're exposed to the environment, which
exactly.
is you're not in your everyday house. You don't got air conditioning. You don't have a fridge full of food.
Exactly.
You have a cup of rice.
So you have those. You're against the resources and each other. But then there's this other part that we were just talking about. This personal, this deep part of Survivor. And I think we see it in many seasons. There's always these moments.
I feel like in the more, sorry to cut you off, but in the more recent seasons, going back to your first question, of why it is so long lasting, I think they're putting in a lot more characters.
Yeah.
And people that we're seeing their growth. I mean, one of my favorite seasons of all time, just Millennials vs. Gen X, just happened. And I think a lot of that is because of, there are 3 people that have great stories.
Can I guess?
Yes, you can.
Is it Adam, David, and Zeke?
There you go.
Gotcha. Okay.
There you go. And my favorite story, I know, I loved Adam's story, but the growth of David.
That was great.
And I think that really resonated with a lot of kids, maybe thinking that a lot of shy kids are thinking I can't really do this. And then you're seeing this guy, this paranoid, guy that was basically almost voted out on the first episode, come into this power position and change himself and just being able to find immunity idols. And his growth as a person was so amazing to watch, and I think that really resonated with a lot of people.
Another beautiful thing about Survivor is people see themselves. I know something that really dragged me in, and I didn't give my story about Survivor and how I got into it, and I will soon. But Stephen Fishback, he's a lot taller than I am, but when he first played, he was a young Jewish man, very over-analytical, and kind of he was out of his environment. And the fact that he did so well, I saw him as a 13-year-old boy, I related with him, and I was like, well, if he can do it, I can do it. Exactly. I feel like there are so many characters in the show that kids can look up to and see them do amazing things. Anybody can win this show. Anybody can make it too far in this show.
We've had winners from literally every single background.
Yes.
Every single ethnicity or any single age. We have a winner from Boston Rob to someone like Denise.
Right.
So to Cochran. To just our most recent winner, Ben. Anyone can win this show. It just matters about how you play. And I think that's a very inspiring thing to people. Yeah. You can win.
You can do it.
Yeah. Even if you're not the most athletic person or the most strategical person, you can still win this game.
Yeah. And I think that may be one of the things that drive people to it.
Exactly.
It's this feeling that these are normal human beings. If they can do it, I can do it. I see Survivor doesn't have relationships on the show as much, and which thank God it doesn't.
Yeah.
But we see certain relationships or even certain friendships on Survivor that are being tested, and people could see them like not exactly that extreme, but I can relate to dealing with people like that, or with people like Cochran or David that you said. I can relate to, you know, being shy with people or being a little anxious. Hannah, on Millennials versus Gen X.
Yep.
Anxiety. People see that. People see themselves in the show.
Did she throw up in a challenge, or was she getting like shakes?
She had an anxiety attack.
Anxiety attack. It was Chrissy who threw up in a challenge.
Yeah.
Who made it to the end?
Yeah.
In a show, a woman who threw up at the end of a first challenge, and then went on to tie the record for most immunity wins by a female, and make it to the end of the final tribal, and still get two. I think she got 2 votes at the end. That is someone who, the mother who was watching the show, if you're with a family, that's someone like, wow, that's an inspiring mother. Like if she can do it, maybe I can do it.
100%. And
someone like Sari, exactly,
Sari.
the woman who got off the couch and played Survivor.
Yep.
Perfect example of someone who, if she can do it, I can do it.
Right, like anybody can play Survivor, and that's the crazy part about it. And I think, so that's another reason why I think it's been on so much, because people see themselves in these characters.
You don't have to be the best looking person. Nope. Sorry to go on another show, but Big Brother, they usually cast like very good looking people.
Right.
But on Survivor, you don't have to be the best looking person. You just have to have an interesting story and a great mind for the game, maybe. Right. Or just be an interesting person, an interesting character. Or someone maybe we've never seen before. We've never really seen a character like Lauren. And this is the 35th season of Survivor.
I'm going to pause. Let me explain who Lauren is for people that do not know and are still listening. Thank you. Lauren is this larger woman. She is a fisherwoman. She has a very dry way of speaking. And like you said, 35 seasons in, you don't see these type of people. Also, you don't see these type of people making it far.
Exactly.
This is such a rare character type that I'm sure there's a whole new wing of people who can relate to Lauren that's never had somebody to relate with. That's incredible.
I think we're going to see more characters like a Lauren in the future.
I'd love to see that.
Which would be fantastic for the show. I think someone like going back, like Tony, really inspired maybe Joe to apply for the show. Right. I don't know if that's true, but I'm saying the character archetypes, they're finding new character archetypes in their most recent seasons of the show. They're not like recycling character types from season 1.
Right.
They're finding new and interesting people, which I think is the best part about Survivor, and kudos to Survivor casting.
Yeah, they're amazing.
For everything that they do, because they really find 20 different people, put them on a beach, give them malnutrition, see what happens.
Go at it.
Go at it. And it's the most interesting thing to watch.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
And the editing is also fantastic.
The editing is great. Oh my god. And that's a whole different other podcast. Yeah. That's another conversation. I love the edits. But that being said, I have another question for you. Would you say you're obsessed with Survivor? And I say obsessed not in a scary way or an extreme way, but it defines you somewhat. Like, can you imagine you being the same person? I'm not saying as a personality, but just as your life without Survivor.
No, I couldn't. Survivor is definitely one of the bigger things in my life. I literally have CBS All Access just to watch Survivor. So, and my mother knows this, and she still pays the $5 per month because she knows how much I love Survivor. And if I'm having a bad day, if I'm in a bad mood, I can always put on an episode of Survivor from any season. It could be from season 1 to where Richard Hatch takes his hand off
Right, yeah.
the final thing from the immunity thing to the most recent season.
Yeah.
I could always have a good time watching it.
For me, Survivor is special to me for a specific reason. Survivor is on 2 times a year.
Mm-hmm.
Now, putting away why it's important to me, well, it's not important to me. I could live life without Survivor. It would just be weird.
It would be tough.
Do you know why it would be weird? And this is the point I'm trying to make. Survivor's on TV more of the year than it's not.
Mm-hmm.
What show is like that, where it's not even the same season? It's on more of the year than it's not.
You know, a reality show, definitely can't think of one.
Yeah.
I mean, even Big Brother, it's just one season, it's 3 months.
Yeah.
But like Survivor's on, it lasts pretty much. Right? It's like 2 months per season. 2 to 3 months.
4 months.
4 months.
Yeah.
For some seasons, yeah. You're right, because sometimes they have double episodes and other stuff. Yeah.
So I've always had a trust with Survivor. And I'm not saying like they are the most reliant thing in my life, but they are. There is this sense of reliance that they're always going to come back.
Mm-hmm.
And it's not like this is like an emotional thing, but it's always it's this good feeling.
It's a great feeling.
That this constant love, like football is a season and it comes and goes. Baseball, there's baseball seasons, they come and go, and people have that. That's similar to Survivor. You can always rely on it coming back. Eventually it won't. Those sports will always be there. But I always, as a little kid, at 13 years old when I started watching, and then went back to all the seasons in the middle of some seasons, I've always had this trust. It was a big deal in my life. And it still is.
Mm-hmm.
How many people have that? That's such a unique thing. And I think that's another reason why it's been on so long. It always comes back for 20 years, almost 20 years. It's always there. You can always rely on Survivor. And that's special.
It's great to know that when you watch the finale for Survivor and you're sad that it's over, that they already have 2 seasons in the works coming up, and they already have a season that is already filmed.
Exactly.
And already they already had their final 3, and they're just waiting for a whole premiere.
Mm-hmm.
And that takes another year for those people. They already have these seasons in the bag that you can't wait to watch, and I think that they space it out very well, that they have one in the spring and one in the fall. I think that's perfect.
This is a show that cares about its fans.
Exactly.
And that's clearly accurate, seeing how long it's been on, as I've said like multiple times, which is incredible. So, I guess to conclude this whole question, there's a numerous amount of reasons.
Before we conclude it, I just want to bring up one thing that I think we didn't speak about is Jeff Probst being the host for 35 seasons. I think people that they can always rely on seeing Jeff there. And Jeff, bag him if you want, and yes, he can be annoying sometimes in Tribal, but he is one of the most fantastic reality show hosts. He always gets something out of the people at Tribal that makes it drama and interesting, and you can always hear him during challenges trying to egg on contestants. Like he's fantastic.
He's the voice of the show. He's almost like the conductor.
Mm-hmm.
And talking about relying on something, like it's a nice thing.
Jeff will always be there.
It's a nice thing to know that this familiar face will always come back, and he's exciting. He's a fun guy, so it's good.
Yeah.
So, I think that's one reason that you can rely on Survivor to come back. People have this in their lives that maybe they do it. They watch it with their families, or they just like the strategy. That's a really difficult thing to go into. Why some people like the strategy of voting people out. I don't think the reason is, and I'm trying to get this quickly, I don't want to get this point quickly down. I don't think that people like the manipulation. They like the strategy of manipulation.
Yes, I agree with you.
Human
exactly.
chess. Like, it's television. We want to see big things happening, but we're not rooting for people to get hurt.
Exactly, and I think I hate going back to Big Brother, but I think that we see in the most recent season, we see someone like Paul manipulating people and hurting them, but then we see someone in Survivor maybe as someone like Rob who manipulated people in his season of Redemption, but he didn't really hurt them.
Exactly.
He just manipulated them and had this like bonding form.
And that's easier to watch. I think Survivor always clarifies, the players always clarify if they're not bitter, that this is a game. They get this is a game. They signed up for this. They know what they signed up for. But so it's, to the audience, Survivor's reliant. That's one point I was trying to make. The second point that we talked about was that you could see yourself on the screen.
Anyone can do it.
Anybody can do it. You sitting at home, you could see yourself. I know I've seen myself many times on the screen.
And I have as well.
Yeah. Who have you seen that reminded you of you?
That's a very good question. I see, I saw a lot of myself in Adam.
Yeah.
And just with the story with his mother and, my family has had battles with cancer, so I know how hard that is. But I see someone who's going in, who knows a lot about the game, but then in his game, even though he won, he has a lot of road bumps and does a lot of things wrong, but still comes out on top because he does more things right than he does wrong. And I think that's something that I can relate to in my life. Like, I do a lot of things wrong, but I do more things right that counteract that. So a more recent person is Adam.
That's cool.
Yeah. Even though I don't look anything like him.
Right.
I'm trying to think who maybe I related to on the most recent season. I saw a lot of myself in Devin in the way that people think a certain perception about me, but then if they really get to know me, or if I get to expose myself to a camera, I can really show you the person that I am.
Right.
And I feel like Devin did that if people don't know who Devin is, he was this surfer dude who had long hair, and people thought, oh, this guy is just a dumb surfer dude. And he really proved in the later episodes that he had a strategical mind for the game, and he loved this game, and he really wanted to win this game too. Yeah,
so that's a cool thing. And trying to end the second point, not only do you see people that remind you of you, just even like specific things about them, you see them like doing it. You see them like hustling, and that gives you so much confidence in yourself.
You see their ups and their downs.
Exactly. You see their vulnerability, and that's the word I was looking for. Vulnerability. I love that word. That's why, another reason why Survivor's been on for so long. People resonate with the characters they're seeing, and in such a beautiful way. And what was the first one again that we talked about?
I think it was that Survivor hits on a lot of different issues, and there are a lot of different reasons why people are interested in Survivor.
Yeah.
I know that I heard an interview with one of the characters from Millennial vs. Gen X, Jay. He said that he watched the show predominantly for the challenges, and that was his favorite thing to do when he was out there, and that's why he loved the show. But he was someone who really exceeded expectations and was a strategical mind as well. So, I mean, that's someone who, and then there are people who watch it for the relationships.
Exactly.
And the strategy. I don't really want to say the manipulation, because I don't think that people like seeing other people getting taken advantage of.
Right.
I think people like if it's done in a strategical way where people are like, wow, you really got them to influence them not to vote you out, even when they pretty much know you're the biggest target, and if you get to the end, you're going to win. So Ben really didn't do this because of the immunity idols, but seeing someone like convince someone to keep them around, even though they're the biggest threat.
Yeah,
that's great.
That's great. I think David's a great example. Anybody can come out on top, and it's shocking, and it makes you believe in yourself if you resonate with this specific person.
Exactly.
And that's beautiful. Sorry, that was the first thing we were talking about. The second thing we were talking about. The first thing we were talking about is the topic of situations being relevant to other people's lives. That's also beautiful. It connects.
There's a lot of stories that people.
And then every season we see a new story.
A new story, not something that's recycled, not something that is or cheap story. We see a new
story. We get a new group, and the fun thing about it is
we don't know what the story is going to be coming in.
Yeah, and the fun thing about it is the story with these people, they don't know what it is as well.
Yeah.
You could shuffle the dice, and you don't know what you're going to get. We as an audience don't know what we're going to get. It's intense. It's riveting watching that. I have a final question for you.
Sounds good.
Has Survivor ever let you down? I'm not asking you to say no way. In a way, can you think of a way that Survivor has ever let you down?
Seeing the cakewalk that Rob Mariano, even though he is one of my top 5 Survivor players of all time, Boston Rob had, it was just a very predictable season.
Right. I'm talking about in this grand scheme of the show. As the grand scheme, what it does to you. What does Survivor do to you?
No, it has never let me down.
Never let you down?
And even though I didn't like that, so watching back, when I was watching that season of Redemption Island, I enjoyed that season more than I enjoyed almost any other season, just because of the character of Rob and seeing. I was obsessed with Philip.
Yeah, there were great characters on that season.
Philip was this crazy man who said he was a former FBI agent, and we really don't know if he was.
Yeah,
we have no idea, but he says he was.
For me, Survivor has never really let me down. But there are episodes where I feel a little cheated by the show. There are times where it's hard to explain, but I'm not talking about episodes-wise. There are just these certain seasons that I feel cheated by the show, and it's because the show kind of forces its story down your throat. It's not it's not the game, it's the story. And that doesn't really let me down, but it's not. I don't know if I'm making sense here, but
Is there a season that you can think of? Because
South Pacific, which is actually one of my favorite seasons, one of my favorite winners, it was very unlikable cast, a very highly unlikable cast.
I agree.
And they forced the story down our throat, not the game.
I agree.
All right, that was awesome. I love talking about Survivor.
Same here, and it's one of my favorite things to talk about. So
okay.
I just want to thank you.
Yeah, thank you. I want to thank you for being a guest on my podcast.
Of course.
And talking about one of our favorite things, which is crazy, Survivor. And this sitting down was almost therapeutic because we got to explain why it's so great.
Yeah, exactly. And if you ever need me for another episode, I'm always here.
Absolutely, man. Thank you so much for being on.
Thank you.
Thanks.
All right.
Okay. That's all, guys. Bye.